Recording in progress.
Then I'll get going. I call to order the meeting of our Common Council for Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We have 12 members in the room and 12 members in the room.
All right, thank you, Clerk. Now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation offered by Alder Stevens. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alder Stevens.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and welcome everybody. Everybody can have a seat. All right, thank you for joining us this evening. I found this invocation to be fitting for our current times that we are facing. May wisdom preside over the affairs of our times, and may those entrusted with civic responsibility conduct themselves with discernment, steadiness, and honor. In an era marked with swift concerns and shifting expectations, grant that each public servant remain guided not by convenience nor by the pressure of uniformity, but by the enduring principles of integrity and public trust. Bestow clarity upon those who deliberate on behalf of their communities, that they may resist the call to fall into unthinking formation. Let no alderman or any servant of the public feel compelled to advance in mechanical step, as though governance was a parade of imitation rather than a vocation of consequence. Strengthen their resolve to act with independence of mind, to weigh each matter on its merits, and to uphold the dignity of their office through thoughtful judgment rather than reflective alignment. And may the public they serve recognize the value of leaders who decline to move as toy soldiers in a line, choosing instead the more demanding path of principle, deliberate, and accountable actions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alder, for sharing those words of wisdom. Next is approval of the minutes.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Stevens. Any changes here? Yes. Alder Eck.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, in N1, excuse me, it has me marked as a yes, but I was a no.
Got it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. Is that an amendment?
Motion to amend as,
Alder Eck makes a motion to amend the minutes to
As
change
corrected.
that vote from no to yes on the item that she had mentioned, N1. That was seconded by Alder Johnson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The item has been amended. Motion to approve as amended made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Ritterbusch. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the minutes have been approved as amended. Approval of the agenda. Motion to approve made by Alder Presley and seconded by Alder Stevens. Any changes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Sure. The agenda has been approved. Now the report by the mayor. Couple notes. We've got an event coming up at Lion's Mouth on Thursday, February 5th at 5:30. Sort of introducing our poet laureate to the community. So just wanted to flag that for all of the alders here, but also the community at large. Come out and get acquainted with our new poet laureate. So thanks to Alder Johnson for bringing that communication forward initially. Thanks to our public arts coordinator for coordinating that whole RFP process, and our council for approving that position and making that designation. So looking forward to seeing people out at Lion's Mouth on Thursday. Then also just wanted to remind people, no reminders necessary for the people in this room, but we have an election coming up. And it's not just in April. We've have one in February in some situations. So just encouraging residents to hop on myvote.wi.gov and see if there is a primary in your district. A lot of good information there. Obviously, our clerk and her team are always available to answer questions, but I would think she would agree that that's probably a good first place to go before going to the clerk's office with questions. So encouraging people to log on and make sure they know whether or not they have an election and get some questions answered there too. Finally, some good news coming out of Washington. We sent out a press release on this earlier this afternoon, but wanted to publicly thank Congressman Weed and Senator Baldwin for advocating for the city of Green Bay. They were able to get their colleagues to agree to send $5 million to us for the purposes of constructing a new fire station on South Broadway. So congratulations to our Metro Fire Department. A project that is long overdue, and looking forward to working with our ad hoc facilities committee and council and finance committee to get that project moving forward, hopefully here in the near future. So with that, we'll move along to announcements from council. Alder Eck.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to remind everybody that the Wildlife Sanctuary has a Frosty Family Fun Night that has live music, horse-drawn carriage rides, food trucks, night hikes, and all-around family-oriented fun, and it's on February 7th.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Alder.
You're welcome.
Any other announcements? Alder Johnson.
Mayor, just two things I want to piggyback off, actually both things of what you said. One, on the Poet Laureate, just because I've gotten this question a fair amount, no property taxes were used to fund that role. So if anybody asks you, please know that roads will still get fixed. The second thing,
Not by the Poet Laureate, but
not by the Poet Laureate, but
great staff.
the second thing on the fire department too, and I think this was maybe reported partially incorrectly. I think from the last ad hoc facilities committee that the fire station was over budget, and I think that's a bit of a misnomer. It's really, we knew that we had 15 million that we were willing to authorize at the local level to fund it, and if it was going to cost more to do, we'd either have to defer pieces, or the federal government could or the state could help chip in and allow us to build the thing in its entirety. So I just think it's important. That distinction is important. It's not necessarily over budget. It's where we expect it to be, but this will ease the burden in terms of that decision making to allow us to build what the preferred design would be. So just kind of wanted to create that distinction.
Appreciate that, Alder. Other announcements? Seeing none, we'll move along to appointments. Motion to approve the appointment has been made by Alder Presley and seconded by Alder Prophet. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that appointment has been made. Next up is ordinances, second reading for adoption. Alder Prophet makes a motion to suspend the rules, take up these items with one roll call vote. Seconded by Alder Presley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Presley, seconded by Alder Prophet. And just a heads up, I think our display is not working on our roll call votes, but if necessary, we will announce them.
So I think they can see the
Right, our display board is not working, so just a heads up on that.
Okay, you may vote. And that passes 12-0.
All right, those ordinances are adopted or approved 12-0. Next up is report of the Improvement and Services Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Stevens. Items here to be handled separately?
Yep.
Item one? Others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of the agenda will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved, with the exception of item one. Your wishes?
Open the floor for interested parties to speak.
Alder Galvin makes a motion to open the floor.
Second.
Seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open. So if there's someone who'd like to speak to item one from Improvement and Services, this is regarding the sidewalk on Hartung Street. Just approach the podium and just state your name and address for us, sir. And we offer 3 minutes for testimony.
Did you want the address of the property?
Either one.
Okay, yep. My name is Steve Kirsten. I'm the owner of the property at 338 Hartung Street on the east side by the East River.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. First off, I'll start off by saying that the city wanted us to replace the sidewalk in front of my building there, which is extremely long. And Mr. Galvin here asked for a request to extend it past the 30 days that they give you to repair sidewalks, which is pretty much impossible to get a contractor within 30 days and get 180 feet of work done. So he applied for an extension, was turned down. At that point in time, I contacted Michelle from the city, and we verbally talked back and forth. I had finally gotten a hold of Raise Right to do the work, and what we did was at the end of September. Mr. Galvin said most of the time they do that in October, but this was September, so I called Raise Right, and I had it moved up approximately 2 weeks, which I had told Michelle was going to be the 15th of September, and she said they would give us till the 19th of September to get it done. So Raise Right pulled a permit with the city, so they were well aware of what was happening. And the date of the 15th was, in fact, the day that I told her, and that they were there, and they did complete the work. It cost me $1,640 to get those 23 sections taken care of, which left about 10. Two of which, if you look at those pictures there, we didn't think we should be responsible for the very poor work that the city did on that water main. And we had complained about that 2 years earlier. As far as trying to get that done. But the committee said that maybe since we complained, we were the one person that brought this all on ourselves, because all it takes is one complaint and you can be, liable for thousands and thousands of dollars worth of work. And they said that was us. So I didn't think 2 years in front of that was a time frame that would fit that, but I don't know of anybody else that complained, because our sidewalks were much better than the ones like right across the street, which I asked Mark from the water department. I said, what's the deal? He said, well, you got one complaint. That's the deal. So I said, okay. And then Raise Right came out, did the work on the 15th, and it was completed. And then every spot that was marked with an X to have it removed was a big orange R from Raise Right was put over the top of it that it had been completed. The city, in fact, did not come out on the 19th like they said they were going to. I had told my tenant to be alerted and let me know if that happened. But as it turned out, they didn't come out till October. So Michelle's complaint was they didn't have enough time or enough people in her department to actually check it out and see if it met city standards, which they were supposed to do. And we never got a call on that. Never got a call that they were coming, never got a call that they checked it out. So then they just came in October and tore everything out that we had repaired. So, and some of it I do feel we are responsible for. The stuff that we didn't fix or grind or mud jack, and that was approximately a third. At the committee meeting, we tried to compromise on that, and Melinda had a very good solution, but we couldn't get everybody to agree. This is my third meeting with a 2-2 tie twice now. Mr. Galvin helped out quite a bit. I appreciate all the help he gave me. The committee, I think, was very fair. It's just that it was 2-2 twice, and this is my second time back from Phoenix to enjoy the Wisconsin weather, which I don't mind. I like Wisconsin. So I guess lastly, I just wonder if I just been an individual and they came to tear up my driveway and stuff, if they would have given me any notice that they were going to come to my house and tear up my driveway. I would think that they probably would, and I would have liked the same consideration.
Thanks for your testimony, sir.
I think I've used my 3 minutes up.
Any questions from council? Yeah, Alder Grant.
Thank you. When you spoke to staff about the 15th completion date, did they ask you to call back when it was in fact,
Oh, no.
when it was in fact complete, or did they say, okay, that's all we need from you?
Well, it was just a verbal conversation.
Yep.
I had just called her. I told her it would be the 15th. She said they could give me until the 19th, and then they would do it. Nothing was followed up with a letter or anything. It was all just verbal. So no, they did not say that I had to call them or anything like that. And in the letter that I got, it doesn't say that it does say that I think I have to either call or email. And I did call, and I told them, And that wasn't very far out either. That was in September, I think, when I called them. So it was just a matter of a few days to get it done.
Okay, and so they did not ask you to call back
No, they
on
did
completion.
not.
Okay,
They did not.
thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Yes, Alder Hutchison.
Okay, so your contractor got a permit to remove and replace sidewalk.
Well, not remove, but mud jack or grind. They don't
So
remove
they-
and put Nuke's concrete in.
So they got a mud jack permit from the city.
Yes.
And do you have a copy of that?
Of the permit?
Yeah,
No,
the
I don't.
permit.
They pulled it themselves, so I never got a copy of it.
It's kind of key. I mean, I trust that it happened, but that's a key point of
Oh, it did. It did.
evidence of having a permit pulled and you have it in writing. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
they
a
did.
lot of this seems to be verbal, and a lot of times the city gives you a date, so it's a hard date you got to try to meet, and they'll come afterwards.
Mhm.
Okay. And so that's so you get it done.
Oh, I
So-
believe that was the 19th because that's what she told me on the phone.
Okay. But it just seems like there's a disconnect, and it's really a disconnect. I see it between contractors. If Raised Right would have called the contractor who was doing the work for the city, there would be no miscommunication. But it sounds like the contractor for the city showed up and they just did it. They just tore things apart. And
Yeah, they
did
never checked it like they were supposed to see if it
Well,
conformed.
we're talking two different things here. The city checks, the contractor builds. Okay, it's two different things.
Correct.
Okay, so there seems to be just a disconnect between those two things. Unfortunately, totally unfortunately, because
I guess
we
I
all have
override.
mud jack stuff. I've mud jacked
Well,
my
they do a lot
driveway.
of work for the city. It's not like that was
Right.
the only time because they do a lot of work for the city. It wasn't
Okay.
just this one time.
Okay, so they should have the permit to mud jack, and so did they leave it to you to contact the city, or were they going to contact the city that they did the
Well,
work?
I contacted the city and I told them it was going to be done on the 14th. and-
yeah,
15th
but I'm
that it
talking
was.
about the work's done.
Correct.
Communication should have happened. It's done. Not it's going to be done. It's done. Did that ever occur? It's done.
Did I ever talk to her? No.
Okay, so it's an unfortunate, I think, miscommunication. Okay.
I guess you could say that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, Alder Hinkfus?
You had stated that you had talked to somebody in the city a couple of days before the
It
15th.
was Michelle.
It was Michelle or Valerie. Okay, right before the 15th, right
It
before you were
was-
going to have the work done.
A week, maybe something like that, maybe 10 days. Yeah, I had told her that I had rescheduled it to conform to what they had told me because it was after the 19th.
Okay.
So once it was, I got it moved up about 2 weeks, then we were within that time frame of the 19th.
And you, as a resident, called to let them know it's going to be done on
Yeah.
the 15th and thought you had done what you needed
Yeah,
to do.
well, I know we pulled a permit, so I thought that part of it was done because that's what they requested. So we had them do that, and they did. And, we met the requirements to be done by the 19th, which we did, and it was done. And like I say, every X that they had, there was a big orange R put over, as you can see in the packets. So it should have alerted somebody to at least let us know when they were coming, or conform to the city so that we could redo it and make it qualify for good concrete.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thanks for your testimony, sir.
Thank you. Do I need to stick around, or do I hear about this later, or how does it work?
The council will now debate the
okay.
issue. So yeah, feel free to stick around in the audience.
Pardon me?
Motion to close the floor made by Alder Galvin, seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. Alder Galvin.
I'd like to make a motion, move that the cost of replacing the sections of sidewalk that the property owner had fixed be removed from his bill. So I can't remember exactly how many sections, but whatever those number of sections were, he had repaired them. He had notified the city, in my opinion, that it was going to be done on a certain date. The sections were clearly marked And if this contractor has been doing any kind of work for city, that marking would have been something that would have stood out. So I don't think he should be held responsible to pay for that.
Okay, is there a second for that motion? Yeah, second by Alder Eck. On the motion? Also, maybe before we have a discussion about the motion, just invite Director Justin to weigh in on any of the testimony or anything that you want to share with council.
Sure, I do want to clarify one thing. The last time I spoke with, I believe, Mr. Kirsten, was on September 5th, and I did follow up with an email, so I do have email communication, so just wanted to let you know the date. And basically, I stated in my email, I'm following up on the phone call. Our contractor is scheduled to start work in your area between September 15th through the 29th. You said that your contractor is lined up for the week of September 15th. We can have our contractor avoid your property until September 19th. After that time, as our sidewalk technician said, if the work is still not complete and the contractor arrives to do the work, we are legally obligated to proceed with a sidewalk repair.
And then there was no response back from.
No, that was the last communication we had.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on that. Sure, Alder Profit. Oops, sorry.
Director Justin, when did the work get complete then by the city?
I believe it's on the invoice. That's the date of the invoice. I know I believe it was early October. I don't know if it says it here. October 2nd.
Thank you.
Okay. Alder Eck?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the amount that was 3,250. That was the amount I was saying that he should pay because that was the amount of the 50 feet. He was expecting 10 pieces of sidewalk, and they're about 5 feet long for each sidewalk times the $13. So the higher rate between the two. So the amount for him to pay my motion was 3,250. So based on what Alder Galvin is saying, that that would be the bottom line, I guess.
Okay.
So I think you said it kind of opposite. We're
Yeah.
subtracting it, but that's the bottom line.
Okay. Thanks, Alder. Alder Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I think one thing that would make me more comfortable before any vote occurs is if we can actually put a number to this, because I feel like there's some abstracts being put out there. That's what you made at committee, but that's not necessarily what Alder Galvin made today. So I just want to have verification, if we could, from Alder Galvin on the exact number contained within his motion. And then the secondary question that I would have for staff is, if this were to pass, does this require us to identify a funding source, or is it presumed that it could be covered through the budget allocation for this service?
We'll let Galvin do some math, Director Justin.
It would come out of our sidewalk fund, so it would be come out of our capital improvement.
Okay.
Balance.
The bill that the gentleman received was for $10,838.40. And if Alder Eck's math is correct, the sections that he had repaired, had they not been charged to him, would have been $3,250. So in the end, my motion should be understood that he's responsible for $7,588.40.
That's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
The opposite?
He'd be liable for 3,250. Sorry to go back.
So
and forth, but
reducing from.
All right.
yeah,
All right.
the 7,000 would be the
Then
reduction.
he would be responsible for $3,250.
Okay, that's your motion.
Yes.
Okay. On that piece, Alder Profit?
Yeah, I would feel a lot more comfortable if this math was coming directly from our invoice that we have in front of us that is separated out by 3 different quantities. And then if the math would be done that way. So whatever, I don't understand based on what I'm looking at. There's a $12 each of a 445.7. There's a $12 each of a 334, and then there's a $13 each of 114. So whatever sections he did repair prior to this invoice, I'd rather that we go with the math of what was on this invoice and then reduce it from this invoice. I'm not following where these numbers currently are coming from, so I don't know if Director Justin could clarify
Yeah.
thickness. So how do we know what piece?
Let's have Director Justin explain.
Right. So at the INS meeting, we did some quick math, and we have no way of knowing, exactly what was done because we weren't able to go and inspect it. So the math that we had done was based on Alder X request to count 10 sidewalk sections. So it was, I believe, 50 linear feet by a 5-foot width, and we used the $13 one, which is the 6-inch, the last item. And that's how we came up with the 3,250. So it's essentially 10 sidewalk sections.
So that 3,500 is what you had indicated that he would have already paid for once over, and you're recommending that be taken off, or based on the motion, you're not recommending anything. I apologize, but to put words in your mouth, I'm just trying to understand, should that 3,000 be reduced from the 10,000, or are we saying there's 3,000 left? I'm still not understanding.
The 3,250, the recommendation at the INS by Aldrich was that he only pay for 10 sections. So that would be the cost for 10 sections of sidewalk to be replaced.
Okay, so 3,500.
3,250.
250. Okay, would be all right. So depending on what the motion is here, that is what I would be in favor of. 10,838.40 minus 3,250, and then they would be responsible for the rest.
So that's the opposite of what we were.
Right, but am I understanding what you're saying correctly? Is you're saying that those 10 pieces that he had already repaired would equate to on this bill $3,250?
So
What
there
was
there
left?
was I believe there was a total of around 23
Total.
sidewalk
Okay.
sections, and there were still cracks. So the mudjacking was done, but there were still cracks. So it was estimated that approximately 10 of those 23 would have been the city's responsibility to do anyway. Even if he completed the mudjacking, they still needed more work. So we would have had to come out, do additional work to approximately 10. We weren't able to go out and inspect, so we couldn't, we can't verify that number exactly, which ones still needed work, but
Okay.
it's estimated to be 10.
Okay, but ultimately it didn't get inspected in those 3 weeks' time to even confirm that the work that was done was up to code in the first place?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Alder Hutchison.
Okay, I understand the logic, and I guess I would be willing to approve that the owner of the property would be responsible for $3,000+. Okay. One thing that kind of bugs me is the role of the contractors in this. The city had a contractor, the owner had a contractor. There's this big disconnect, and I don't know why that happened. And I don't know if there's a way that we can hold our contractor somewhat responsible. I know we don't want to do this because we want contractors to come work for us and do the work in a quick fashion and get it done per standard and all that. But to me, our contractors showed up and there was mudjacking that had been done. Obviously, there were markings on the sidewalk. Why wasn't there communication to somebody, the city, the owner, as to what happened here? And that didn't occur. So we had our contractor raring to go. They come upon this, and they're adults. They can see. Why didn't they call? Is there any way that we can hold them liable to part of that $7,000 the city's going to eat? I guess this is to the attorney. Do we have any way to do that, or at least a communication to the contractor saying, What happened? Explain it to us.
Maybe invite Director Juice just to weigh in on this communication disconnect. If you have any thoughts on that, and Attorney Kochar, you can maybe think about Alder Hutchison's question.
Sure.
a bit.
Right. So the contractor would have been given their orders to go to do the sidewalks. So they they're making their way around the city. I can't say what they were thinking when they came there, whether they the workers saw what had occurred or not. So I don't know that piece of it. I would say that I guess in my opinion, we would have had to known the work was done and tell them not to do the work. I don't know what recourse we have since we didn't give them any different instructions.
Right. Okay. So any just like process solutions that you can think of, or this? I mean, this is just the way that.
We've
that
talked about whether we need to get ahead of the contractor and be out there at every single project, and we only have one person running the sidewalk program plus doing other technician work, surveying and stuff for projects. So to add in another position, we're challenged. We just don't have this person can't be all over the city. So that there's that piece of it. It's possible. It's just we're limited.
Okay. Thanks, Attorney Kochard. Any thoughts on Alder's question?
Sure. So in terms of the contractors, it would really be just looking at our contractor because obviously the property owner hired their own, and we'd have to identify some like either breach of contract or non-compliance. Like if we required that they check for markings or something, I'm just talking about it hypothetically, that they would have really done something wrong. A mistake was made in the process, and I don't believe that's the case here. When looking at this letter, I reviewed this and provided information to the alders at INS. A formal communication, which is required by state law, which our communication complies with, was issued on May 21st. And it specifically says under option 2, which is what the property owner availed themselves of, that the property owner shall call or email that the work is completed and ready for final inspection. The city shall then inspect the repairs, and no call was made, right? And so there was an open line of communication. Director Houston mentioned the notification or the last communication they had on the 3rd, the work still hadn't been done. So it's really, I don't know, unless we identified the contractor responsibility or the property owner identified that their contractor was supposed to notify us, it's really comes down to the notification piece, which isn't our contractor's responsibility.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Attorney. First Alder Johnson, then Alder Galvin.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think when I'm looking at this, there's two things for me. I guess one is there's sometimes a time, to really exert that this is the law, and sometimes there's an opportunity for grace, and recognizing that maybe there's an opportunity for process improvements, resource allocation to help get to a better outcome. Remember that this was a policy decision by this body to really address the condition of sidewalks in our community, and I do think that was a smart directive. I just think that because it's a new program, we're still trying to figure out what kind of resources do we really need to allocate to this to ensure that things can be inspected and managed properly. So when I'm looking at this, I see it as an opportunity to have that process improvement, and that this is the cost to do that. So I think I'm supportive of a level of forgiveness on this, is provided that we react accordingly and make that improvement. The one thing that still just sits out there with me that I would really like to see, though, before we cast this vote, is exact numbers. And I still think there's a misunderstanding here on what we're actually authorizing. And so if I would maybe, it sounds like Alder Gavin wants to speak after me, is just make that request that we have this invoice in front of us that's $10,838.40. If we could maybe just have the motion explicitly state the amount that we are that we are going to cast a vote on to forgive of that invoice. I think that might be the clearest way for us to approach that, because it sounds to me like we've got alders that are seeing two different numbers here within the same motion.
So it's the difference between 10.8 and 32.50. Is that correct? Okay.
Which is $7,588.40. So, and again, for clarity, the motion is to forgive that amount.
Correct.
Okay.
Alder Galvin.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to point out where it says in the paperwork that he received in May that he is supposed to either contact the property owners responsible to contact by phone or email that the project's done. And he did contact. He told them it would be done on the 15th. Now, does that mean he has to wait until the 15th to call and say the project's done? Or can he call in advance and say the project will be done on the 15th? I mean, now we're getting into splitting hairs here. And I think for the city to say, well, he didn't call on the 15th or he didn't call on the 16th, because really he should have called on the 16th to say it was done on the 15th. I mean, it starts getting a little ridiculous. And I think the fact that in good faith, he said it would be done because his contractor assured him it would be done, and it was done on the 15th, and yet the city didn't go out and check it. Now, you get into whether, the city's contractor should have been at least somewhat alerted when he saw the bright lettering on the different sections, which are way different than what the city always traditionally puts on sections of sidewalk that need to be replaced. I would have thought that that contractor would have been alerted that something was different here, and he, but again, he's not here to defend himself or say what his thought process was. But I stand with my motion. I don't think he should be held responsible for something that he clearly made an effort, and he did notify the city on the day it would be done, and it was done on that date. Thank you.
So, are there any other comments? Alder Hutchison, then Grant.
Okay. Thank you, Alder. I think I used to do this. I was assistant city engineer for the city of West Bend in the 80s. Concrete was made out of different stuff back then. I don't know. But to your point, going forward, I think we have to be clear in our communication, because this communication was not clear in this story. You must call when the project is done. As assistant city engineer, if I get a call and say we're going to be out there next Tuesday and working on it, and this is a contractor calling or an owner, yeah, call me when it's done, because when it's done, it's done. Okay, that's a clear point. Even though I'm saying this, I will vote for this, but I want to be clear going forward. People who are going to get into this and have sidewalk they have to do, please, if you do it yourself, call the city when it's done so they can take the appropriate steps. Thank you.
Well, and just to reinforce that, Alder, I mean, anybody who's ever asked a contractor to do any work understands that completion date is oftentimes a little bit of a moving target. And for a director of the Department of Public Works of a city of 107,000 people to be providing this level of customer service is pretty impressive. So, definitely process improvements that could be made. But to have this exchange between the director of our department and still that communication breakdown to happen on the other side of the equation, I just think everybody needs to recognize the service that's being provided here and the flexibility that seems to be in the process of being offered. We pride ourselves on good customer service in the city of Green Bay, and I think it was offered in this instance in spite of the differences of opinion. Alder Grant.
Thank you. Just a question for Director Jewson. When someone does take out a permit and is a contracted or a approved contractor, do they ever notify us of the completion versus I understand the letters of the owner, but since we have a relationship with them, is it part of the process that the contractor notifies the city that it's completed?
That I'm aware of. The one permit that I did have a copy of is the one that's issued through DPW, which is the excavation obstruction permit. And they just put the date that they're going to do the work on there.
Okay. And just, so for clarification, the contractor that did the work that was through the city, they did not call with any questions and ask what these different markings were.
No, we didn't get notified until the property owner received the invoice, and then we became aware of the issue.
One last question. When the resident called prior to the 15th and said, I'm going to be taking care of these portions myself, would it be part of our policy or procedure that then we contact our contractor to say some work is being done by the resident prior to them coming. If they're planning to come on the 19th, don't we give them some instruction prior to let them know? Otherwise, how do they know what they're walking into?
He would have just had the original orders since we didn't, since we weren't aware that, the work had been done. We didn't, the technician didn't change any of the orders that were given to the contractor. It was just their original assignment.
Even though you had a permit from his contractor saying, I'm doing some work to this project, wouldn't the two, I guess, connect as in if a permit's being taken out for the same address as one that we have orders on, wait, what is this person doing then? And shouldn't we align the two and maybe notify the second contractor that some prior work is being done and we have approved the permit, we have authorized this work and helped that communication along?
So the excavation obstruction permit was taken out on August 11th, and the target date was September 23rd for the work. So obviously some things had changed. When we're reviewing that, we're just looking to make sure that, there's not going to be any issues with the work as far as, like obstructing the road or anything like that, or they have proper traffic control. So it's not necessarily, the sidewalk person's not necessarily the one that's looking at that.
Okay, even though the resident, I guess when the resident called and you sent that email, per our conversation, he had made you aware of them doing their work. So we were aware of some work. I guess at that point, would that instruct us to then contact the next contractor to make them aware of the work that we were being told of?
So the property owner, there had been communication all summer long trying to, coordinate on schedules and stuff. They said they would be doing the work. At that point, I passed it on to our sidewalk technician, and we never got any further communication after that. So that was on September 5th. The deadline, was September 15th. So there was a couple weeks gap. And then there was a time since our contractor got out there.
But September 5th is when he called and said it will be completed on the 15th.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's all I have for questions. Thank you.
Any other comments? And this is on the amendment, reducing the invoice to $32.50. Alder Johnson, then Presley.
Yeah. Again, I just kind of acknowledging, I think, Mayor, I appreciate the point you made, and it puts a lot of perspective on this, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's the part where I think the process improvement to me is how do we get our director out of those conversations, frankly? And so I just wonder if, when the letter that goes to the property owner can just be a little bit more explanation in terms of why they have to take certain steps. I always believe that when people understand the why, they're more quick to act appropriately. And if they know that if they don't take the right steps, city contractor is going to come through. So how do we take something right now that's a little bit sort of maybe uncertain to somebody and just make it very black and white? And if you don't follow this process, it's black and white why the outcome is what it is. And I just wonder if there's a way that we can take the phone call and the email out of it, which can be subject to error, and just literally you have to submit this web form. And now it's logged, it's documented, it's stamped, and that web form, if set up, could even send the email directly to the contractor at the same time with proof that it was done. So I know that's a little bit beyond what we normally do here, but I just wanted to at least offer a process improvement that hopefully takes it out of your hands and just makes it very easy in the future.
That I normally don't get involved. This was probably the only one that I got involved with because it got raised to that level.
Sure. Appreciate that.
You're on. Alder Presley, and then Calvin.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm not in favor of the amendment. I've said the same thing in committee, that this was notified on the 21st of May, I believe. 21st of May, city says you have 30 days to fix this or else we're going to do it. We asked for an extension. Okay, now you have another 30 days. We asked for an extension. We asked for an extension. We asked for an extension. It's very clear in that original notice. Property owner shall call or email that the work is completed and ready for final inspection. I understand what Alder Johnson is saying about process improvements, but this makes it fairly clear, or very clear, that you need to let them know when it is done so the city can come out and inspect it. And then they will decide whether it is acceptable, if it meets what they need, and if they don't, then we start the process over again. That's all laid out there. It's black and white. I want to reframe the narrative of, well, he said he was going to get it done on the 15th, and then he did get it done on the 15th. He was supposed to have it done on the 21st of June. We had extension after extension, and then finally said, okay, we figured it out. It's going to be done on the 15th. Director Justin's last email communication, I think, was very clear about what the process is. And then when that construction was completed, nobody was notified. The only notification that was made was a orange R on the sidewalk, and I don't think that is sufficient. I think a call or an email could have easily been done, especially when it had been delayed so long. When it's 6 months out now, that we've been waiting to hear that this is done so we can call off the contractors, let us know that it's done. So things could be improved, certainly, but I'm looking at the people who are paying the property taxes that are now being used to subsidize $7,000 potentially worth of sidewalk repairs, instead of our normal process, which everybody else has to go through, where they get their own sidewalks repaired and pay for that. I don't believe in that sort of subsidy when there's a very clear standard of how this is supposed to operate.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Galvin.
Thank you, Your Honor. As to the 30 days that our residents are given, I don't know of anyone that's been able to get a contractor within the first 30 days and get the work done. Almost every one of them has to ask for an extension. Although we have many contractors that are licensed to practice within the city, very few are able to or willing to do these kind of projects. And so what Mr. Kirsten went through is what many of our other residents have to go through. It's a confusing and it's a mystifying process for them, especially when they get told that they've got 30 days or else. And I've had quite a few calls from constituents in the past who became very upset thinking there was nothing they could do. And I want to, as far as Director Justin's involvement in this, I want to say that no matter how this vote turns out, I ended up going to her, and I'm sure she kind of regrets it now, answering that phone call. But I went to her because there had been a conflict between the resident and city staff. And I wasn't able to get any kind of a resolution. And so I did go to Director Justin and ask for help. And I really appreciate that she did, because she did go above and beyond. And I do appreciate that. And I don't, like I said, I don't care how this vote turns out. I still appreciate everything she did for my constituent. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder DeLee.
So I understand the delays in construction process, especially when it comes to concrete. I feel like concrete is one of the fields that is the longest delayed. So I can understand a 30-day delay and another 30-day delay and another 30-day delay. What I can't understand is what Alder Presley had brought up. And I had spoken with the attorney about this as well. But under option 2, it literally states the property owner shall call or email that the work is completed and ready for final inspection. We can't even put a number on the 23 sections that were marked with an R from Raise Right because they were never re-inspected. The last contact happened on September 5th. So the work was completed on September 15th. And I know you give a deadline on something that the work's going to get completed, but it's a contractor. Contractors are never done on time. So 23 sections that had an R spray painted on them, and they were never re-inspected. So we don't know if they were completed to the standard that the city needed or not, or if they were ADA compliant or any of that. We don't even know what size those pieces of concrete were on those 23 sections. So I can't get past the fact that there was no communication after the work was completed. I know if I had a $10,000 bill hanging over my head and we had a contractor that was slated to come tear all that out on the 19th, I would have made that phone call at 3:45 when that contractor left on the 15th. So I can't support this.
Alder Profit.
Ever since Attorney Kochar brought up that option 2, it's been stuck and highlighted on my screen, so a solid at least 20 minutes. With the calendar, because I'm thinking back to the email that Director Justin read that went without response. So option 2, as has been reiterated by Alder Presley and Alder DeLee, shall call or email when the work's completed and ready for final inspection. And that's the piece that never happened. There was 17 days in between when that email was sent and unresponded to and when the city came out and did their piece with their contractor. 17 days. So yeah, if I knew that there was a bill coming, I certainly would make sure. But this letter, was sent back in May. There's a chance that they didn't recollect that that's what it said, but that I don't think should be then up on the city to make sure that they kept this letter and they read that they did option 2. The key piece is ready for final inspection. I've had homework assignments due on a certain day, and I told my teacher that I would get it done on that day, and I didn't. I turned my assignment in late, and we all know that's what we've seen with contractors. I think that's why Director Justin followed up 10 days later via email and said, hey, following up on our phone call from 10 days ago, just wanted to make sure. And not only did she say, hey, you said it was going to be done on 9/15, she gave the grace to say by end of week, then we will have them come. And they still didn't go the next week. They went 2 weeks later. They went 17 days after that email went unread and unresponded to. This is 23 patches of sidewalk. Yeah, I would make sure I was on the phone the next day as well. And even not the next day, but I mean, there was an email that was sent and not responded to from the director of our public works. I had a problem with that. So I'm not in favor of this amendment anymore. I walk back my previous statement.
Any other comments? Alder Hinkfist.
Thanks, Mayor. I really, when I look at this and I listen to what Mr. Kirsten has said and what Alder Galvin has said, I really think it was a miscommunication. I don't think it was intentional on either side. But as a business owner, he said it was going to be done on the 15th. In his mind, okay, it's done on the 15th. You're going to come and look at it, and it's going to be over. I have a hard time penalizing somebody when I think he thought he was doing the right thing, and I think Valerie thought she was doing the right thing, and she's very good at her job. But in this instance, I'm going to support Bill's motion.
Alder Galvin.
Thank you. Alder Galvin's.
Any other comments? Alder Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Alder Johnson made a good point that this is a good opportunity for us to fix our process. And I think this is a tough one because I agree that I think both sides made errors. We have a letter that clearly states what the resident should do. He was under the understanding that he had completed that. Could staff have guided him a little bit more? Yes, but she did offer a follow-up email. One suggestion I would make is if Alder Galvin's motion fails, do we both say, hey, we were both wrong and we meet in the middle? Maybe we don't eat all of it, but we understand that there is no clear picture of who made a mistake. And so if this fails, I would be willing to offer up another motion to meet in the middle. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. So the motion is to reduce the invoice to $3,250. There's been a robust debate. All in favor will signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. A board vote has been requested by Alder Profit. It's the same.
Okay.
Same math. Yeah.
All right. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. So we will use the board.
You may vote.
right, the motion is approved 9-3. Now we are on to protection and policy. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Profit. Any items here to be handled separately? Item 4. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 4. Alder Johnson makes a motion to approve item 4. Seconded by Alder Stevens. On that motion, Alder Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I could just as easily have talked to you about this separately, Chief, but I just kind of wanted to publicly acknowledge it. I think it was about a year ago, maybe, that you and I had actually talked about something like this, and I broached this with the mayor even before the meeting, and I said, yeah, I fully support this. I think this is important. However, if we make this change and people don't know we made the change, I think it's going to lack sort of the impact that we're looking for. And so I hope that we can find a way maybe to bring in some partners and incorporate some type of PR campaign to really get this out to the public so that they're aware that not only if you're the driver, but if you loan your vehicle to somebody, or somebody takes your vehicle and commits this crime, that they can be held accountable for that by virtue of this ordinance change. So I just, and again, nothing you really, unless you want to react to that, but I really want to encourage, whether it's PD or even through the mayor's office, that we maybe can find a PR campaign strategy to go around this.
Chief Davis, anything on that?
Sure. Anytime we enact something with these kind of applications, there's always a communications plan that goes with it to make sure people at least have the opportunity to understand it. And actually, I think there's already been a media interview about this today.
Yeah, and then if I would just follow that up, Chief, with appreciate the media coverage, and that's always a good thing we can get that kind of lasts, in that moment. I would love to see if we could even do something that's more prolonged. And so, if you're working with like a billboard company that would perhaps donate some PSA campaigns or, something along those lines, because obviously reckless driving has been an incredible concern here in our community as of late. And I appreciate everything the police department's really done to try to curb some of this. And obviously you only have so many tools within your toolbox. And so I'm hoping that this is a big lever, but it only works if people really understand that impact. So.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thanks, Alder Johnson. Motion was made to approve. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. Report of the Green Bay Police Department granting operator licenses. Motion to approve made by Alder Profit and seconded by Alder DeLee. Any abstentions or names to be handled separately? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Plan Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Items here to be handled separately. 1 and 2. All right. So we will handle those separately on 1. Alder Presley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just after looking over the meeting of the Plan Commission on this and weighing staff's recommendation for this, I don't think that regional commercial land use is the correct use for this. I think keeping it as neighborhood commercial is more in line with the surrounding neighborhood, the apartments there, and looking at not just this tenant, this good business owner who's surely, if we pass this, going to do good things, but the future of that neighborhood and really the philosophy of planning a neighborhood. I think we should really reconsider Plan Commission's recommendation and go with staff's recommendation. So I'm going to make a motion to deny.
Okay. Alder Presley makes a motion to deny the request, seconded by Alder Profit. On that motion, the resident Alder Morgan.
Yes, this is my district. And I went to a meeting. We had staff had their representative there at the facility. The president of the Starlight Neighborhood Association came there. We had no one that's ever in the neighborhood complain about this. What I saw there is a business person that local people from this area that have been in this kind of business for 15 years. This property used to be Cliff Wall Mitsubishi, and then it became Bergstrom's property. And that corner lot is already grandfathered that they can sell cars there and stuff. They want to purchase the property next door and have two parcels. Right now, they have a limited space to display the vehicles they're selling. And if they could purchase this new parcel, they'd then be able to expand their inventory. With that, they are hoping to add 10 to 12 more jobs to their facility. Like I said, they've got 15 years of experience selling cars in Brown County. They left for a while, went into real estate, Florida, decided they wanted to be back home in the Brown County area. And if you got to see what they have done with this old Mitsubishi garage, you'd be totally shocked. I myself worked in the auto repair business for about 5 or 6 years, and the mechanics I worked with would be in heaven if they had a facility like this. They've spent unbelievable amounts of money to get the best equipment. I had gone in there last summer just to look around, and the place is immaculate. They have cleaning staff that comes there every night, or on the business nights they're open, and cleans that whole facility. They, these two, husband and wife, actually are there usually 12 to 14, 15 hours a day working themselves. They take a lot of pride in everything they do. If they get this parcel, what their main goal is, like I said, is to expand their inventory, increase their business, and expand people working for them. The actual building was a parts store. It was automotive. It has bays in there, but all they want to use these for is for detailing. So when they do buy a vehicle and it's not ready to go out on their lot, they would clean it up. They'd fix whatever's needed. All the repairs and stuff will still be done in the old Mitsubishi garage. They have no intent of doing body work over there. And to me, it's a win-win that we can get more jobs. We'll take a building that could end up empty for a while and have it used right away. And I know the people are here, so that is all I have to say, but I'd like to make a motion to open the floor if they would like to come up and speak.
Alder Morgan makes motion to open the floor, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open. If anyone would like to speak to this item, feel free.
I would like to speak about it. I'm Bob Every. I'm the owner of the Advanced Auto Building, and so I want you to know that right off. I bought the building about
your address, sir?
Oh, sure. It's Franconia, New Hampshire. And I bought the building about 3 years ago. And when I first looked at it, the building next door that we're talking about was a dump. The place was, the grounds were unkept. The building itself was really nothing in it. It really was a detriment to the neighborhood. When I went back, I don't know, about 5 months ago, when I knew that the building was going to be vacated by Advance, I couldn't believe the difference that they made. They did a beautiful job on that building. I'm familiar with renovations, but he's made that not only a credit to the neighborhood, he's made it an anchor to the neighborhood, and he's made it something that other people would be glad to have in the area. That much I can tell you. It is a mixed commercial and a residential area, but it's an asset, and a really good asset to the area. It's an asset to Green Bay. I don't know what else I could tell you. If you had any questions for me, I would try to answer them.
Okay.
But
thanks for your testimony, sir. Any questions from our alders? All right. Appreciate it, sir. Anyone in the room who would like to speak? And then again, if you could just state your name and address for us.
Yeah, can I take a seat here?
Sure.
Brandon Henches, 997 Thornberry Creek Drive, Oneida. So my wife and I, we've been in the business for, like the alderman said, over 15 years. It's actually been a little over 17 years. We put a lot of pride into what we do. We're there. Well, I'm there from 6 a.m., 6:30 till 7, 8 at night. Lots of time, energy goes into this place to keep it running. And basically where we're at now is we have almost, in less than 1 year at the Cliff Wall building, we've almost already maximized our space, and we need to get this other building so we can get other work done instead of sending it off site. So that's the purpose of the building, is just to maximize work in-house, create more jobs. We plan on, using this building to the same standard that we keep our current building with the Cliff Wall. So the cleanliness and the upkeep will be done the same. Landscaping, the plowing, we plan on, keeping it just as nice as we do at the current building. My wife and I were a husband-wife team, so, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to the story a little bit. Alderman's come out there and you set foot on the property. All of our vehicles are sourced from like outside of the Midwest, so we're bringing up like rust-free inventory to the state of Wisconsin. So we kind of do things a little bit different than a lot of the dealers that just source stuff locally. And we really take pride in really putting quality vehicles on the lot. So I can promise that there aren't going to be any vehicles that have like missing bumpers or rusted out, that are dilapidated to the community or anything like that. So I really appreciate you giving it a thought and taking the time to listen.
Sure. Thanks so much for your testimony. Could you just repeat your name and address for our clerk?
Yeah, it's Brandon Henches, 997 Thornberry Creek Drive in Oneida.
Okay, great. Thanks again for your testimony. Any questions from alders? All right. Thanks for being here. Anyone else?
Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the council. My name is Jane Jaden. I live at 2905 Timberline Court in Green Bay. I'm here to speak in favor of the rezoning. I am a realtor representing the seller that you just heard at Olenichek Realty and the property in question. The potential buyer is right next door, as you heard, and will simply expand his business if the rezoning is approved. The sale will have little or no impact on the character of the neighborhood. He's already done a good job of upkeeping everything. On the other hand, and this is more important for us realtors in trying to sell the property, if the rezoning is denied, it is going to be very unlikely that a buyer will come along and raise the existing building and develop housing as the plan suggests. I respectfully ask you to approve the request. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your testimony. Any questions? And say hello to Mr. Jaden for us. All right. Anyone else? Entertain a motion? Motion to close the floor, made by Elder Prophet, seconded by Elder Jolie. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. Alder Morgan, then Hutchison.
I just wanted to add a few more things. First of all, just around the corner, half a block away, Cliff Wall Oldsmobile ran an automobile sales business there for decades, probably 50, 60 years that I remember. And across the street is apartment buildings, and I don't know of any problem that ever occurred at that time. When this went to the Planning Commission, there was only one dissension. I believe the vote was 5-1 in favor of changing this zoning. And also, as I said, the Starlight Neighborhood Association president was there to check it out. And I just spoke with her last Friday at a baseball meeting she attended. And when I mentioned that the Planning Commission had favored both these items, she was extremely happy and would like to see this done for her neighborhood also.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Hutchison, then Presley and Johnson.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Alder Presley, for bringing this up. I'm a member of the Plan Commission, and this was an interesting issue for me to listen to the Plan Commission on this issue. This Plan Commission are sticklers. They know when you change zoning, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I live near this area. I drive by it all the time, go through it all the time, intersection right there. This isn't going to, by changing the zoning and the potential that could come, it's not going to potentially change a lot from what is there now. And I think that was recognized by this Plan Commission because they looked at it and there was a first motion to deny and there was no second. And I was kind of floored because I thought it would be, we can't change the zoning. But these commissioners looked at the site where it was, what the current owners are planning on doing, what the changes of zoning could potentially happen there. And they, as a rule, pretty much in all except for one, voted for it, including me. So I think, yeah, changing zoning is potentially, iffy as to what could come in the future. But I think the lay of the land, where it is, who's there currently now, I think everyone felt comfortable on the Plan Commission to approve. Okay, I just want to, even though staff recommended against it. Okay, so I guess that's all I have to say. I'm going to vote for approval of this.
Thanks, Alder Presley Van Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're having a comprehensive plan discussion here because it sounds like we're having a conditional use plan discussion. This is, I have no bad feelings about the current owner, no bad feelings about their plan for it, but we are looking at rezoning and we are looking at changing the comprehensive plan from something that was meant to serve the neighborhood to add to that neighborhood to potentially, within the changed zoning, there could be a gas station, there could be a car wash, there could be an auto mechanic, these things that have more of the nuisance quality that you don't necessarily want right next to residential housing. So I'm still in opposition to it. I sense I'll probably be in the minority there. But yeah, I live in sort of a similar situation where I'm in multifamily residential, and right next to us, there's a car wash. And nobody had any issue with it when it was a field, and now people do have an issue with it. So I think, just because there's not any question about it right now and neighbors haven't come forward right now, especially because I don't believe residents in apartment buildings get those notices, so may not have been aware of the meeting or been aware of what's happening. I can't necessarily, speak to them one way or another, but I'm still against it sort of on the principle of what we're looking at for this neighborhood 25 years in the future, not, next year.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And Alder Presley, I certainly appreciate that point, especially, that it's really the comp plan amendment. Sometimes we have a tendency to go off track, but sometimes it's easy to see where that next track is. And so, I think the gosh darn thing about car lots is that, city planners really like them. They're like fast food restaurants. The problem is nobody stops buying cars and nobody stops eating chicken sandwiches. So, these things just keep happening and you need them. And, when you have a lot that has been built for it and has served that purpose in the past, obviously this is a more convenient transition, I think, than perhaps trying to establish a new one somewhere. And maybe the one thing in this, which you alluded to, Alder Presley, that I can appreciate as being a concern is you're opening it up to those other types of uses with no clawback mechanism on that. So I wanted to ask staff, I'm assuming at least that the reason the CUP was not considered is because this is not a conditioned use within the ordinance within this particular zoning code. Is that correct? And in which case, could a PUD be used in its place that would have some parameters on there that it couldn't be used for some of the other undesirable uses?
think we talked about that at the Plan Commission. I don't think a PUD would apply here.
It wouldn't? Okay,
No.
so it's not an option. So it's kind of an
Correct.
all or nothing. Okay.
Yeah, this is one of those hard ones, right? The
Yeah.
philosophical ones.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And this to me, again, is where then you have to weigh, right? The good with the bad. And I think, could it be used for housing? Perhaps. It's, but of course, you can have a higher site acquisition cost, which drives up the cost of development. And maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't. But the problem we have right now is we don't have a buyer sitting here wanting to do that. But we do have someone who's asking for this purpose, and it's a purpose that's been used on this lot for many years prior. So I think I too would support the motion. Well, not Alder Presley's motion, but to the recommendation that came out of Plan Commission. Biggest thing I want to do is verify though the PUD. So thank you.
Thanks, Alder. There's a motion and a second. Director Renier Wig.
And I just like to clarify something. This would really be neighborhood commercial, not so much housing. But you're right. We're looking at this is a comp plan change from a comp plan, of course, we just passed. And that's our job as planners to look at the future. And great business that you have here. Alderman supports it. But again, we don't know what will happen in the future when you change the zoning, and everything's by right. And that really is just the difference is really the use with regards to lighting and noise and traffic and those types of things. It's just a higher density use. So,
Thanks. Alder Profit.
And to just have a quick question as it relates to the zoning director, Renier Wig. So C2 to C3, because the one thing that gives me pause is the permitted use with C2 in some of these uses versus C3. Could you clarify the difference between the two for me? Because the permitted use, right? Like we're comfortable and we're content with the current use that's here. But if that were to go away 10, 15, 20 years from now, when my kids are maybe living in that apartment behind it and a gas station could go in with a car wash without ever having to come through this body ever again. Could you just clarify what the difference between C2 and C3 is for me, please?
I think when you're looking at the chart, Alder, it's really the things that would be permitted are like automobile rentals, auto sales, car washes, convenience stores, gas stations, mail distribution facilities, motor vehicle repair, businesses that are higher density, have the potential to be just louder, noisier, more lights,
Right.
more of a nuisance.
But on C3 on that same chart, there's the C, which and this could be my misinterpretation, does the C mean that it would have to be like a conditional use permit that would come through this body instead?
Correct.
So what is that designation on our comp plan for C3? What type of, is that, or am I too disjointed with my, where my brain is going? Is that regional commercial, or is that, like, what is that C3 designation?
Well, I think that's regional is the new name in our comp plan, right?
Okay.
That goes from C2, which was the like highway commercial.
Okay.
So it's a higher density commercial. We're calling that regional now.
Okay. That clarifies. Thank you. Because if we're going to C2, that just permits all of those uses without ever coming through this body. But C3 in that chart would make it have to come through this body if it were to change. So I'm in favor of Alder Presley's amendment, but I too feel I may be in the minority there.
All right. Alder Presley made a motion to deny the amendment to the comp plan. That was seconded by Alder Profit. All in favor will say aye. Board vote. Requested by Alder Grant. This is on denial. It's on denial. Correct. A motion fails 2 to 10. Motion to approve made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor will say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. That item has been approved. Now on to item 2, which is to approve a request to rezone the properties. Motion to approve made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Ritterbusch. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. On to the report of the Finance Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Presley. Any items here to be handled separately? I think yeah. Number 8, any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved with the exception of item 8. Alder Johnson makes a motion to approve item 8. It was seconded by Alder Galvin. I believe.
Open the floor.
Yeah, Alder Johnson makes a motion to open the floor. Seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open. So this is to approve the agreement between the City of Green Bay and One Energy Development. So if someone would like to speak to the item, just approach the podium and state your name and address for us. Believe, do you have a presentation?
Yeah.
A few slides?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcat, do you able to pull that up?
Hi, everyone. Just while the presentation gets pulled up, my name's Nolan Stumpf, project manager in development with One Energy Renewables, 10 North Livingston Street, Madison, Wisconsin. So I just have a short presentation. I'll go through it super fast. Lots of information, but happy to answer any questions afterwards. Just to kind of talk through the project proposal at a high level, what to expect if it were to be approved. So next slide, please. Oh, great. Okay. So a little bit about One Energy and our Midwest distributed generation team. So One Energy Renewables is a employee-owned independent developer of community-scale energy projects. Our Midwest team, based in Wisconsin, focuses on development, engineering, construction, operating, all of the kind of in-house projects throughout the Midwest, predominantly in Wisconsin. We emphasize on projects that interconnect to the distribution grid rather than the transmission system, and serve the local utility and the local grid. We're also a public benefit corporation, so our bylaws kind of are ingrained to have us strive to operate in a responsible and sustainable manner. So the map on the screen shows our projects in Wisconsin. We have 55 operating in the state. That's equivalent to over 50,000 households average electricity needs. The nearest projects in operation are called Bonduel Solar in the town of Heartland, and then Anago Forest Solar in the city of Anago. This last summer, our teams were quite busy building 20 projects throughout Wisconsin, also in Minnesota and Iowa, and 2 that were nearby. Should say they're just recently energized. We're very excited about our Perch Solar in the town of Vinland, and then another project in the city of Anago called Anago Hogan Solar that's actually on city of Anago owned property. So there's kind of 3 major components that need to come together for a solar project to be successful. One of those being an interested landowner. So in this case, that's the city that is interested in potentially hosting a solar project for 30 to 40 years, which is the estimated lifetime of the system. And then having nearby infrastructure that can accommodate that new generation capacity. So there's a substation next door, and generally being nearby a substation kind of gives a good indication that the interconnection to the grid will be reasonably economical and feasible for the project budget to interconnect and sell power at a rate that's competitive, basically. And then the third being a suitable site physically. So we've done desktop analysis at this point on the site, and kind of has come back as being very suitable for constructing a solar project. So a little bit about that. Here's kind of a high-level image of the property on Algoma Road or Highway 54. So you can see the parcel is landlocked. However, the substation is right next door, and there are three-phase distribution lines along the highway, which are kind of necessary or a good indication of suitable interconnection costs. Another important thing is topography, or basically having solar radiance availability. So this is kind of a map that shows hill shade and LiDAR shade. So the property is free of trees and there's no tall buildings nearby that would shade the solar panels. And it's also relatively flat. So some other kind of environmental reviews at a high level that passed many of our desktop screenings for floodplains and wildlife critical habitat. There's also no known historical sites. And there are wetlands surrounding the property, but not any mapped wetlands on site. We would have an environmental contractor do a wetland delineation on the site, but there are no currently mapped DNR wetlands on site. So kind of more of the nuts and bolts of the project. We use bifacial solar panels. So you hear photovoltaic solar modules. Those are the most common type of solar panels. Solar PV, you might also hear. They're about the size of a large door. And they absorb sunlight on both sides. So a little bit different from like a rooftop system that only absorbs sunlight on one side. These can kind of absorb sunlight that bounces off the ground, vegetation, snow, and that boosts efficiency quite a bit. They also track the sun, so the single axis tracker is the pivot point for the solar panels to track the sun as it moves throughout the day from east to west. The panels themselves are about 8 to 9 feet tall at the maximum tilt. And then when they're flat in the middle of the day, around noon, they're about 6 feet tall. But that's all mounted on steel I-beams. So those are pretty standard. They're driven directly into the soil with a pile driver. So no concrete casings or other fillings in the soil. We do geotechnical analysis with soil borings before we can do construction to kind of investigate the structural engineering and the embedment needs for those piles. So it varies, but they're driven about 8 to 12 feet into the ground. Some other components are inverters and transformers. So the inverters on the left there they convert the DC electricity generated by the solar panels themselves to AC electricity, which is what's usable by the grid and in homes and by our devices. And then there'll be 2 to 3 transformers on site. Transformers step up the voltage from the project to match what's already on the distribution grid. You'd be familiar with transformers outside of a big building like this. They're usually green, you might have seen. And then the whole project would be enclosed in an agricultural style fence. So it's basically an 8-foot tall deer fence with woven wire holes. We usually, they come with small holes on the bottom, but we usually flip them so larger holes are on the bottom so that small mammals and other wildlife can enter the project and use the vegetation that we plant as habitat. But the fence is mostly there to keep people out of the project. So we also really pride ourselves on land stewardship. We have a whole team on staff dedicated to this. So the whole project is planted with a permanent perennial vegetation. We use on a lot of our projects a native prairie seed mix, which is the plan for this one, that features 30 native Wisconsin prairie species. And that, once again, provides habitat for pollinators, small mammals, but also rebuilds soil and rebuilds nutrients over time and helps the land rest. In general, our approach is to have a low impact to the land and dual use. So We also have many projects that are grazed by local sheep farmers or the landowner who is a sheep farmer. In general, as well, we do less grading, or we hope to do as the least amount of grading on site as possible by basically spending more on steel and having differing lengths of steel piles. You can imagine small hills and valleys in the ground and slightly longer or shorter steel piles to keep all the panels on the same plane. And that really reduces the need to grade everything to the same level. That also makes it easier to return to ag at the end of the life. That's a requirement in the lease, is that all the solar facilities to be removed and it to be restored to pre-construction conditions. And so that rebuilding the soil, that's why Wisconsin has such great farmland, is that we had prairies throughout the whole state for many, many, many years. So that's part of our goal here as well. I talked through a lot of that, but here's a really nice picture of one of our projects out in western Wisconsin. So the prairie management is, we have subcontractors that are basically prairie restoration, prairie ecologists that handle that, but it's managed on a very routine basis and targeted for invasive species removal as well. So some of the other benefits of the project are these distributed generation projects, as they're called, are a new local source of generation on the distribution grid that can help reduce the overall costs of and basically delay the need for upgrades on the substations or the three-phase lines that have basically already been paid for. They're already installed, but there's not the full basically utilization of that system. It also reduces the need to transmit energy long distances or import fuel from out of state or out of country. There's also, the state of Wisconsin has utility aid payments, which are shared revenue provided to local governments that host projects. That is a $5,000 per megawatt payment split between the city, in this case, and the county, which on this parcel, we'd be estimating likely a 5 to 6 megawatt project. So for a 6 megawatt project, that would be $17,000 annually to the city and $13,000 to the county, broken down between a production capacity payment and an incentive payment through the Department of Revenue. These projects also create lots of jobs. Solar installer is one of the fastest growing jobs in the U.S. We work with various Wisconsin-based contractors for electrical engineering, procurement, civil, and general construction work on these all of our projects, and support workforce development with the Midwest Renewable Energy Association and other partners. This map shows it's basically where all the contractors from the 2025 portfolio are from, so really covering throughout the whole state. We also love to give tours of our projects for community groups, nonprofits, schools, you name it. So if anyone would be interested in touring a existing project of ours, regardless, we'd be happy to do so. That picture on the bottom left is me and my coworkers with a summer school, kind of like sustainability elementary school program. We also typically do a panel donation to the local school district. So that's basically just a donation of panels and money for a balance of systems to install that system on a local school in the district. And that provides lots of, tangible kind of opportunities to go and see where our energy comes from. And also there's the University of Wisconsin K-12 energy program we've partnered with to kind of allow schools to have more renewable energy curriculum opportunities as well. So they can provide small kits to classrooms to kind of build small little grids, and a lot of cool opportunities with that as well. So yeah, once again, happy to answer any questions and appreciate the time and opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your presentation and for bringing this opportunity to the city. Questions from alders? Alder Ritterbusch.
Just wondering if what the contractors are organized labor or not organized labor.
They are all draw from union contractors.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Profit.
Just confirming you're a point of contact for a field trip?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Alder Presley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Is there, I just read an article today about the lifespan of these photovoltaic cells being longer than anyone expected. Is it 30 years? Is that aligned to a lifespan thing, or is that just a number?
Yeah. So 30 years is the warranty for the panels. So they're warranted for 30 years, but we expect them to last longer than that. So it kind of like a warranty in a car or other big, large expense equipment. Kind of, they degrade a very small percentage every year, but it's a known quantity. It's part of the reason why utilities really like these projects is because they know exactly how much energy they're going to get from them depending on the weather at every moment. It's extremely predictable. So yeah, 30 years is the general lifespan, but we expect them to last longer than that.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I know, one thing that maybe came up at committee or from individual alders was this idea, and you touched on this, but the proximity to the substation. I think that's why some of the alders were thinking, the lease payment maybe should be a bit higher as a result of that. Can you speak to that question a little bit?
Yeah. So proximity to substation is a really good indicator for basically line capacity, but it's not a tell-all. So we have had projects that are as close or even like essentially closer to a substation right across the street, where the interconnection cost has come back. Basically, the Public Service Commission has regulations where developers submit a project to the utility that owns the equipment, and they do an engineering review and study the project to see what those kind of physical improvements would be needed to the line or the substation to accommodate that new power. And it's kind of a black box for us. We don't know what that cost is going to be, and so being, say, within a half mile of a substation is a good indicator that the cost will be. We can stomach the cost essentially, but it's not necessarily a one-to-one that being right next door means extremely low interconnection costs. The hope would be to interconnect it straight to the substation since it's so close, but we don't know if there is room to do that. So it may need an underground medium voltage line to go basically buried to the highway and then up back up to the three-phase lines along the highway. But we don't know that. We aren't allowed to submit a project to interconnection study until we have a lease signed. So it's kind of some unknowns there. Another point would be that access to the location, since it is landlocked, is an unknown. There are mapped wetlands between the subject parcel and the substation. So if we cannot get access to the north to the highway, we would have to access the site through that way, and that would be quite costly to engineer that access road. So there's, I guess, a couple budget questions that limit us to be able to increase the lease rate.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, you kind of touched on this right at the tail end of your comments there, but can you more directly comment on the 800 versus 1,000, which the committee made that change?
Yeah, so we basically can't offer a higher lease rate because of those unknown budget. In general, solar projects are competing. There are, in general, on a levelized cost of energy standpoint, with utility scale solar, the cheapest, or utility scale wind, the cheapest forms of electricity generation in Wisconsin. But on a project by project basis, we still want to compete with other generation sources. So the budgets are I'll just be frank, quite tight. And with uncertainties in interconnection, geotech analysis is another thing, is that we don't authorize the contractors to do those soil borings and do the basically kind of, it's really intrusive work. They kind of bring a pile driver out and test piles and drive them into the ground and let them sit there, come out with computers and hook things up to them to test kind of how the piles react to different forces throughout the year. So those are all like really high cost items that we're not sure how they will pan out at this point, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions, Alder Grant?
Thank you. And am I correct that at this point, prior to the project going up, there is no, I guess, measurable impact of how it could benefit residents as far as renewable energy, right? Like costs or anything like that. There's nothing we could say by implementing this, the residents of Green Bay would save this amount on their UPS or WPS bills.
Yeah, I would not be able to comment directly on that myself.
Okay, thank you.
Questions from committee? Or from council, rather? Alder Johnson?
Yeah, I would just maybe offer, actually, sorry, we're still in the question period. Yep, I was thinking comments on the item.
No problem. Any other questions? All right, thanks so much for your testimony. Motion to close the floor made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And before, I don't know if you're proposing a motion, Alder, or an amendment. I would just request discussion in closed session. Yeah, okay. Motion to enter closed session made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Somebody have the language? Yeah, Alder Prophet.
Common Council may convene in closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, subsection 1, subsection E, Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whether competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Common Council may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to Section 19.85, subsection 2, to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Thank you, Alder. Board vote is required here, so we will do that. All right, the motion passes 11 to 1. So we are in closed session.
Recording stopped.
All right, I would entertain a motion to return to regular order. Moved by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are back in open session. Alder Grant.
All right, amend the motion to designate authority to the mayor to approve the agreement between the city of Green Bay and One Energy Development LLC for a land lease and solar easement on parcel 22-SC-513, subject to the terms discussed in closed session.
Is there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Eck. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. All right. Do you want onto the Park Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Presley, seconded by Alder Eck. Any items here to be handled separately? Item 1. Any others? Hearing none others. We'll approve the balance of the agenda with the exception of item 1. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 1. Alder Johnson on that.
Maybe just a question for Director Ditchite. I have no problem with this. In fact, I think this is long overdue. I'm actually happy to see that this is moving forward. Appreciating your notation about anything wider that would generate that access for the public and, wanting to maybe be able to have that conversation at a later date around competitive uses to Bay Beach. Just curious if you guys have ever talked about any type of negotiation, right of first refusal, perhaps on the island under the Bay Beach umbrella.
No, we've never had those discussions seriously. In passing, staff has briefly discussed it, but nothing really to the point where we've talked about details of how that would work and whether or not we'd even want to entertain that.
Right. And I think about, some of the things contained in that plan are very complementary to Wildlife Sanctuary. Other items can be very complementary to Bay Beach itself, like the motorboats in the lagoon. Is that a lagoon?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the right term is. Anyway, but I'm just wondering if there's maybe some. I don't think I would put this on here as a binding condition, but I would make a motion to approve the easement and ask staff to converse with county officials about acquiring a right of first refusal on uses at Renard Island.
Is there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Galvin. Motion was made by Alder Johnson.
I'm adding the right of first refusal.
Any additional comments on that, Director Ditchite?
No, like I said, we can entertain those discussions. If anything comes out of that, we can always bring it back to committee for consideration, and we'll see where the conversation goes.
Okay, great. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The item has been approved. Report of the Personnel Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Sustainability just has some informational items that I would direct you to. And then next is informational Landmarks Commission semi-annual report. Alder Hutchison had some comments there.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a 30-second summary of what this information is, and I invite you to look at it. The Landmarks Commission has been doing an effective job. This past 6 months, the commission itself has reviewed 8 certificate of appropriateness, that's the COA, and approved them all. Staff has reviewed 19 COAs in this time frame, and they've approved them all. And since inception in 2018, 375 COAs have been submitted, 9 have been denied. 5 of those 9 were revised by the applicant and approved. The 4 remaining were appealed to Common Council, 2 were upheld, and 2 were overturned. So that's a lot of work, and it's work to maintain the historical value within the city of Green Bay. I just wanted to bring this up to let you know that the Landmarks Commission is alive and well and doing their work. Thank you.
Thanks, you, Alder. Thanks to you, Alder. Next is resolutions. Motion to suspend the rules and take up these items with one roll call vote made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, the rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Ritterbusch. Any discussion? We'll use the board. All right, resolutions are approved 12-0. Ordinances first reading. Motion to suspend the rules, take up these items with one roll call vote made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Jolie. All in favor will say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, the rules are suspended. Motion to advance made by Alder Presley, seconded by Alder Profit. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, and those ordinances are advanced to second and final reading. Motion to adjourn made by Alder Eck, seconded by Alder Ritterbusch. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, we're adjourned. Thanks everyone.
So listen, Joey, I just
Recording stopped.